Hello, and welcome to the stream, guys. How you guys doing? Let's see. Make sure that's working. Looks like it is. Cool. Alright, well, welcome, guys. If you were able to join me yesterday on the Pixelogic channel, then you got to see some progress on this guy. Good old Goobert here. I'm not sure if the VOD is up yet on their channel, so if you missed that, if it's not up today, it will probably be posted in the next couple of days. The first video is up, so that shows kind of the process of me working on the head. Second video is on my channel here. Third video is on the Pixelogic channel, and then this fourth one that we're doing right now is here on my channel as well. So welcome guys, all the people that are popping in here. We are going to be continuing to work on a lot of different stuff, making sure I have my materials set up here. Let me know if you guys can hear me, if we're good to go. I think we are. Just check my audio levels really fast. And cool. Alright, so this is a concept by Vertical Draws on Twitter. There's a link down in the description to their work, if you want to check that out. But I say we go ahead and jump in here on good old Gooby. Since the last stream on my YouTube channel, we can look at a lot of the stuff that I've done. I believe we started creating some of the clothing. Whoop, pen's not working. But we didn't add any folds or anything like that, so I've done this on the Pixelogic channel. And we'll be doing something very similar to the pant leg back here. You can see that I already have kind of a singular proxy mesh down there that's going to become the fold. But we're going to tackle it in the exact same way that we did this. And I'll talk about some of the same techniques and ideas. Oh my gosh, I'm drinking this energy drink and it's not being nice to me. But I'll talk about some of the same techniques and ideas that you want to keep in mind while focusing on creating folds, not just for stylized characters, but in general. And I'm seeing right now this kind of huge hit happening right there. I want to, we're kind of getting that from the front view as well. It's not quite as bad though. Let's focus on cleaning that up a little bit, and then we'll shift down to the leg fold and work on that one. So we can get a lot done. We're gonna do a pretty chill stream. I say that pretty much every stream. We keep stuff pretty chill here. I don't like to cover too much specific stuff, just because I feel like giving you guys the chance to come in and ask questions, if you have any while we're working, works out a little bit better. But if there is anything specific that you would like to see, feel free to shout it out, and we can look at that either briefly, or if it's something that would require more time, maybe we can look at it in a future stream. So I'm using my mask lasso to essentially block out this bottom part of the fold so that I can very slowly start to pull out around this top portion. And essentially I'm trying to get this billowing effect right here as this fold lays on top of this bottom one. And we're getting it pretty well. The back side is just not looking quite the way I had in mind. We're fixing that a little bit more. The problem was that I was trying to fix there for the main part was just this was pushed way too far in, and we're getting this super strong, just awkward hit that doesn't really make any sense. It's doing a little bit better now, but I think that could maybe use some more love a little bit later. And as we continue to work on sculpting asymmetry for this entire dude here, we'll look at all that stuff. We'll be continuing to do multiple passes here and there. Let's see. That collar is also going to be merged down into that shirt. So I'll probably wait to sculpt some more asim on that once I merge that down through Dynamesh. Excuse me, but let's look at the pant leg down here and see what we can do. Since we're kind of looking at a fold in the later stages, we'll look at kind of how we do this from the very beginning. And I've shown this a couple times already, but for those of you that have not seen, it's pretty easy. Or at least it's easy in the initial stages. It takes a little bit of practice to get the fold looking exactly the way you want it, of course. So this geometry that I've added here is just a simple tube of geometry that I've applied on top of the pant leg. The way that you can do that, really easy, you just take your pants or whatever you want to add a fold to, you duplicate that piece, pressing the duplicate button. You grab your curved tube snap brush, or any curved tube brush that you want to use, and then you draw on your surface in the basic shape of that curve. Really simple. And then you can modify it however you want. So one of the things that I did was I lowered my Z intensity to about half, and that makes it a little bit more thin, and then I adjusted it from there until I got it into a good place using my move brush and some other brushes as well. And we ended up with something pretty similar to what we have right here. So this is how I did the fold on the hat, as well as started out doing this fold. So now from here we're going to continue to modify that fold until we get it into a place that's looking a little bit more similar to what we have down here. So let's take our pants. We'll turn on perspective for the time being, just so we can kind of line this up with our view up here. And let's add a couple subdivs to our pant legs. Say around there, maybe one more, just to get rid of the tessellation that we're seeing. You can still see a little bit of the polys there. So getting rid of that, we can go back to our fold here and start using our move brush to move and manipulate this. I'm going to add some subdivs to it as well, just so we have a little bit more geometry to push and pull around, and continue to work it from there. We also have a proxy back here for this shoe. This shoe is a lot more finished up in the front. I essentially just duplicated that back there so that we could reference it for proportions in the entire sculpt for the pose that we're going for, so that for this pant leg, it's just a little bit easier to figure out proportions for pretty much just everything when you add all the parts that you need around it, and adding polypaint data tends to help a lot in figuring out proportions. So I try to get that stuff, even if it's just something quick and it's a proxy like this. I'm going to probably delete that later. So it's just something quick, something that I can use as a reference as I'm trying to figure out stuff like this pants, or this pant leg and fold. It's very helpful. And we'll continue to just, nothing crazy, just move brush, move this pant leg around, move this fold around, and go from there. I think it's looking a bit thick, so one of the ways I can thin that out, I like to use my transpose tool a lot, so I'll just draw a line out like this, use my move function, and pinch that in. And it looks to me like it's got a little bit of some tilt, and it's probably kind of coming a little bit more from the leg, so we might have to shorten this leg, or at least take this line, this angle, and move it back. So let's do that at least initially here. Grab this, slide these edges, and I'm trying to get this angle here to be just a straight line and meet with that fold. And maybe a little bit lower. And I'm gonna continue to rotate around here in 3D space, just making sure that that shape is being consistent from every angle. But in particular, at first I want to try to get that kind of hero angle that our reference is from, and then start rotating around a little bit more. So it might be a little bit long still, and this could maybe be wider. It's a little bit more short and stout. So let's look at shrinking this maybe a little bit and just seeing what we can get from there. And before I'm gonna reactivate this, if you go into your movie palette and go into timeline, click on show. I like to use the timeline to show or to save particular views. So what I'll do is I'll line up my image. It doesn't have to be perfect, something like that, and then I'll click on my timeline, and then I can get that back if I need to, which can be very helpful. So the length here is actually not my major concern. I think the length is actually pretty close, pretty good. So instead, I think what's kind of throwing me for a loop is that this needs to come down on the underside a little bit, and then this pant leg on top. We just need to adjust this angle some more. Hud boy, what's going on? Welcome to the stream. And Rohit as well. Welcome, guys. Glad to have you here. You're not able to say hi when you sculpt in on the Pixo channel. I don't know why that is. That's sad. It's probably just the time difference or something. But glad to have you both here, and everybody else. Looks like we have a lot more people that have joined in now. If I can, I'd like to set up a little bit of a stream schedule so that we can be a little bit more consistent with our times, instead of just an hour or 30 minutes or sometimes 10 minutes before I go live. Hey guys, I'm going live. Yeah. I don't exactly know when I'll be able to stream always. Just kind of depends on how much other work I have. But maybe we can try to make something and make it a little bit more consistent. So let's go back to that hero view there. The angle's feeling a little bit better to me. Can maybe widen that out even a bit more on the bottom. One of the major things that I'm paying attention to when I'm looking at this, and this is all garbage down here now. So one of those major things that I'm looking at, that I'm trying to capture in the sculpt, is we're looking at this bottom angle here, and I'm trying to capture the roundness, that slight kind of curve that's flowing through here. It's got a little bit of a curve, so I'm trying to capture that in the sculpt. And then here up top, I'm trying to capture this pretty straight angle that we see here. You can see mine is pretty straight, and then it curves at the end, so we'll have to do something about that. But coming down into the fold there, and then looking at this gap here, just trying to line all this stuff up. So these are the kinds of things that I'm looking at when I'm trying to line something up with a 2D concept. But of course, you know, there's some different angles at play and everything else in this 2D concept. So I'm rotating around in 3D space. I'm trying to find that angle that best represents this image. So maybe something like this is a little bit more accurate. That gap is looking a little bit closer. Things are looking a little bit better overall. So I think we are still really close. I think it's just a matter of tweaking everything that we have going on here. Now this fold, the way that's connecting to the pants, we're going to be merging that in, so it's not going to be a huge issue. It looks a little weird right now, but it won't matter. Let's get in there and hide everything else so that we can have a little bit more control. Kind of looks a little bit like a pillow. So I want to add a little bit more volume on top. I'm gonna try to round this out some more. And also, let's get that to wrap around here a little bit more. I think it's a little bit too big. Might have been a little too drastic. Let's see. Try to be creative with our mask shapes so that we can edit this. Malugnio, don't you enable perspective when you work on stylized sculpts? Perspective is on right now, yes, but I don't always have perspective on. I toggle it on and off quite often. So I'm never leaving it on all the time or off all the time. Essentially what I do is, if I'm at this stage, it also depends on what stage of development you're in. If I'm at this stage, I have perspective on right now. I just have it set to the default setting, angle of view 50, which is fine for my purposes. But I'll turn that off, and when I turn it off, I'm mainly trying to look at my orthographic views, so I'll snap to my orthos and look at my silhouette, my sculpt, see how things are going. And then also, I like to keep, oh, come on, move, there we go. I like to keep perspective off when I'm working really close on stuff, just because it's a little bit easier to rotate and move around than when perspective is on, just because it tends to push or pull stuff away or really close to the camera. But with perspective on, it's just a little bit easier to move and rotate around, especially if you have multiple subtools on like this. If I'm in here and I'm rotating around with perspective on, like stuff, because it's closer to the camera, obviously it's bigger, so it starts to really get in the way. So it's more of just a preference, and I recommend jumping back and forth a lot. But I would say more so than not, if you're kind of new, try to keep perspective on a little bit more. If you don't know exactly why you want to keep it on, just because if you're working on something for a long time without perspective and then you turn perspective on, things are going to look pretty wonky. That's also another way to alleviate that, is to just be rotating around your whatever you're modeling, not just your character, but whatever you're working on as much as possible, so that you're looking at it from multiple views. That's also going to help alleviate that wonkiness. Let's get some inflate brush in here maybe. I'm trying to turn this shape and it's being a little annoying. I think that's closer. I'm just making big stroke changes right now. Just trying to get this shape to be heavier and taller on this side. I want this to be pretty much, not flush, but almost flush with the surface. It's much more bunched up here in the crease of the backside of the knee. So we were looking at this fold up here on the shirt, right? And this is kind of the later stage of development for creating folds this way. So the next step in something like this would be to take your pants or whatever you have plus your fold that you just made and then merge those together. And after you merge them, then you can Dynamesh, or you could live boolean them together if you want. I'm just going to Dynamesh them. There's not really a reason to live boolean these. I don't really care about their resolution too much, so I don't need like the exact poly count that they're at or the exact geometrical flow. Dynamesh is going to work just fine and be a lot faster. Maybe get a little bit more wrap here. Try to taper that somewhat. Taper this edge. I'm also trying to look at this from extreme angles like that top-down view. And I think we're pretty close to good, so I say we go ahead and Dynamesh this bad boy and then go from there. So after you're happy, or at least close to happy with your fold that you've made, I want to tweak this a little bit more on the leg. Actually, one more tweak here. I'm starting to get this a little bit of a curve there. I want this to be a straight kind of line right into that fold. Very important that I retain that shape language. And I want that to look like the same shape all the way through, so as I rotate around, I'm still looking at that same shape language. Straight, hit, straight, hit. Over here on this side as well. See, we're starting to get this curve, so let's make sure we're getting that straight to hit. And that's looking better. Thank you, absolutely. No worries. I want to get into sculpting, but I don't have a tablet yet. I would recommend just getting a, like a cheap Intuos or bamboo tablet. You can get a cheap bamboo tablet for, I think, $50 or less, and they work great. That's what I got my start on. But if you want to get in and just learn the software, hop in with a mouse. You'd be surprised how much you can do. Obviously, you're not going to have the pressure sensitivity that you get with a pen, but you can still, I think, at least start to learn the software, which is going to give you a pretty good head start once you do get that tablet. Do you think using a mouse would be a bad idea? Yeah, I think, like I said, I think you can get in and learn the software, but if you're going to attempt to sculpt everything, like, if I want to get in here, you absolutely can, but it's going to be so much more work than you ever want to do. So this is with my mouse using this brush. Here, let's come in here. We'll get on this semi-flat surface. With my mouse, I can only do one level of sensitivity, right? But I can shrink my brush and I can lower my Z intensity, and now I can, make that a weaker stroke and a smaller stroke, or I can make it a smaller stroke and a much stronger stroke if I want. So you can absolutely sculpt with a mouse. It's just, you're gonna have to do a lot of finagling and tweaking quite often to get that exact stroke that you want. But instead, if you're using a pen, I can come in here and stroke as lightly or as strong or as hard as I want, and I can, build up my form. I can make a really strong stroke. I can make a super light stroke. I can build up forms a little bit more gradually. And you just have a lot more control with something like a pen. So, it's definitely possible. It's just not highly recommended. Do all that. Okay, so looking at our fold on our pants, I think we're at a good place where we can merge that down and start making it look a little bit more similar to what we have up top. So the way I'm going to do that is through Dynamesh. But of course, we want to keep in mind that when using Dynamesh, you have to turn off your poly paint so that we can retain poly groups. It's always important. That gave us 700. It's pretty high res, but we will make it work. I'm just looking at the poly groups here. seeing how they turned out, and then also looking at how this kind of merged together here. That's not bad. So now I can come through and start to clean up that edge that we had that was looking really awkward. And I tend to do this at least a little bit before I remesh and get some lower res geometry. So we'll just clean that up a little. Let's see here. A couple people asking if I'm going to 3D print this. So most of the stuff that pretty much everything I do is for production. So either it's going to be RP'd or 3D printed at some point for an RP, or then converted into an RP that's then molded and then casted. But for this, we're not, like, I'm not super keeping that in mind. If I were to print this, though, there might be some, depending on scale, let's say, well, how tall is this dude? 27 units, so we'll say, let's call that, actually, let's say that's 2.7 inches, right? So some areas like this in the foot, and for like a vinyl toy or something, you're looking at 2.5 inches tall on average. That's pretty standard. So if we're looking at the thickness here, we're looking at 0.2 inches in the shoe. That's actually not bad. So I was thinking that maybe some of these areas might need to be cleaned up. Minimum thickness, actually the neck might be a bad one. Let's look at the neck. How thin do we get here? 0.08 inches. So the neck would definitely need to be thickened up. So the minimum thickness that you're looking at in something that's going to be, you know, done for production, especially these. Oh my gosh, yeah, I forgot about these. His antenna, as I call them. You're looking at 3 to 5 millimeters, which is respectively about 0.12 inches and 0.2 inches, I think, around there. We can double check that. I believe that's correct. But so about 0.12 inches and yeah, about 0.2 inches for 3 and 5 millimeters. So that's something you definitely want to keep in mind if you're working on production. So while you're sculpting, I recommend keeping stuff in scale. So let's say this character is, like I said, about 2.7, 2.8 inches tall. And I'm just using my units measurement that I get up here in the top left hand corner of the screen. So probably the neck would need to be more thick, and then something like the hair and whiskers would just need to be removed completely. Or maybe they could be a different material that would be applied to this. But for the most part, I'm not really thinking about, I'm not keeping too much of that stuff in mind. Really, he's pretty good in terms of printability and anything like that. There might be some other problem areas with like having some hollow gaps in the shirt that we would have to take care of, or the vest, but really he's pretty good. But yes, I do have a lot of experience with 3D printing for FDM, SLA, and SLS. But I don't know. It'd be cool to print this guy. Maybe we will. We'll see. Might be a little expensive. I'd probably break them out. I'd like to get, if I did anything with this, I'd like to do SLA parts. And I don't currently have an SLA printer. Let's look at remeshing this pants legs, pantalones. Make this a little bit easier to work with. Let's try and keep groups. We'll try one. It's probably gonna screw up. So we got some weird stuff going on with our poly groups that I probably probably should fix before trying this. We'll see how it does first. I have a feeling that we'll get a lot of problem areas. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, definitely getting some pinching, some extra poly groups. That's really bad. So let's fix this. And it's really easy to fix. You just have to repaint some poly groups. Let's hide this one if I can. Gosh, come on. Poly group all that. I'll turn off my line so you can see what's going on. So this is a little jagged. That's not a huge issue typically, but stuff like this is kind of a bigger issue. So let's just re-poly group this. It'll take 5 seconds. Not hard to do. Folly my bruh, hello. Hello Anubis. Welcome. Hope you're doing well. It's been a minute. Are you a freelancer? I am, yeah. Marco, what's going on, man? Glad to see you on the Pixelogic channel the other day. Congrats. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's always a lot of fun streaming there. We've done 2 so far on the Pixo channel. And next month we'll be doing some more. I don't know if we'll still be on good old Gooby here, but I guess we'll see how today goes. I don't think I'll finish this character today. I don't like to, or I like to spend a fair amount of time trying to capture that 2D appeal, and then we're not done with everything. Pretty much once I feel in a really good place with everything, that's when I start to do that last kind of 10% and try to really push everything else. And sometimes that last like little bit can take just as long as the entire character that you worked on up to that point. Something like this, I don't think it will, but you know, that's always possible. Let's try a little bit of a higher resolution, or actually, I can't remember how dense that was off the top of my head. It looked decent. Let's go back to 1. We'll try this once more. And then I'll turn line back on so we can actually see our polys. And welcome everybody else that's kind of just popping in here. Welcome to the ZBrush stream. Oh, come on. Okay, so that's looking a lot more clean. You can see that we're still getting some weird flow back here in the polygons. We could clean that up with another edge loop there, and it might be lucrative to do so. Actually, yeah, let's do that. Let's do one more poly loop here. Essentially, I'm forcing ZRemesher to recognize that I want an edge loop here. Try to get it to be more clean. And that'll help when working on that fold a lot more. I love ZRemeshing with groups. It's just so powerful for getting some really clean shapes and quick, clean topology here. So I think something as simple as that will work. So just Control W. That should work pretty well. And then once more. One more time here on the ZRemesh. See how that does. Oh, that's a slow one. We're only going to 1K. Come on. Okay. So we still are getting a little bit of a weird surface turn there. It's actually decreasing the the number of subdivs flowing up through there. In Retopo, this is what you call a oh, now I can't remember. But essentially, you reverse the edge loop by creating quads in this shape here. So essentially, you take this edge loop, this polygon loop here and just wrap it around. So now we have 2 edge loops. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 edge loops here. And now it's transformed into 2 edge loops. So that's pretty useful. You'll see stuff like that often in a neck of a character, or maybe sometimes in legs. And the objective there is you have a lot of topology in the head of your character, and then as it flows down from the neck into the body, you want to have a little less edge loops or something like that. You might have something like that. Maybe it's called like turning an edge or something like that. I really can't remember. It's not a big deal though. All right. That's looking much more clean, that's for sure. But we have started to lose a little bit of our form. So maybe we can project and get some of that back. I don't know. I don't think it's enough to warrant. I think we'll do without. Let's kind of work forward from these newly, remeshed pants. Nanojin, welcome to the stream. I dabble in ZBrush. Any chance for a coaching session? There is a chance, actually. Down in the description box, is that what it's called on the YouTube? Down in the description thing, if you go click on the, I cannot use my mouse right now. If you go to, oh, that's not it. If you go to Gummy, where is it? It's Maddie C's here. If you go to Gumroad, right here it is. I offer ZBrush mentorships. It's just a one-on-one session. I'd have to check how many. Last time I checked, there were 2 spots still available. What's today's date? I think there's still 2 spots available. I'd have to double check, but you can check that out. Somebody was asking about that on the Pixelogic live stream yesterday, and was asking if you had to have a model already for that service. So I mentioned in the info there that you need to provide a Z tool, something that we can essentially look at that's already your work. But if you don't have something, or if you would prefer to focus maybe on your portfolio, or if there's something specific you'd like to go over, like you said, specific coaching, that's always an option as well. I try not to keep it super rigid, and on every mentorship we've always gone over the time, so I'm not like super strict about time or anything like that. So I don't know, check it out, see if that's something that you're interested in, and if you have any questions, you can always email me. Is it better to ZRemesh with polygroups or with the ZRemesh guides? I think both are fine. You might be able to get a little. I don't use ZRemesh guides very often, just because it takes forever. I prefer using polygroups. I would say it probably comes down to preference. Polygroups are pretty quick for me, and essentially the idea of ZRemesh guides is that you can try to get some pretty clean topology from them. It's almost like it's trying to be manual retopo, but it never comes out that way. I've had a lot more luck with polygrouping here to essentially get the edge flow that I want. It seems to work really well, at least for the stuff that I'm doing. If you're trying to get like some really hard surfaces, I wouldn't recommend either one of those. I would just recommend like box modeling it with ZModeler or something. But I don't know, it's kind of up to you. Try both. If you've never used this method, I would at least try it and see how it compares for your own workflow. So I've added a tight bevel in here, And what that allows me to do, that one could be tighter maybe. Let's make these both tighter. So if I make that pretty tight, it should get a little bit of a crease in there. It's kind of like, you can kind of use a bevel in a similar way to a creased edge, just depending on how close you put those edge loops together. You'll end up getting essentially a crease, but then as that rolls out here to the front, you can smooth that out and get those edges to be a little bit further apart, and then it won't be quite as tight. So you won't have a crease all the way along that edge loop. It's a little trick that I use pretty often. Let's see. Thanks, man. That's great. Designing a character, and I'm getting stuck mainly on the face and a bit more on the feet. Yeah, faces are tough. That's for sure. So that was the original intention of that mentorship program. Like I mentioned, if you have something, maybe you're stuck on something specific, like you just mentioned the face or something, we can look at that. But if there's other stuff you want to look at, that's totally cool. I leave it up to you guys. It's looking a little wonky back here. See if I can get this form. I'm looking at that fold, just the direction here. We're getting a slight, see that angle right there? So we're getting like this V shape between that leg and that fold. So that's what I'm kind of looking at right now as I rotate to this angle. And you can see that we're kind of getting it, but we start to get a little bit too much of a dip in right here. So I'm trying to bunch up the fold to be more this way towards the pant leg. So I'm trying to slide most of these edges at least forward and towards this pant leg up here. So I'm kind of just manually doing it with my move brush. Ooh, that is getting a little funky there. Mask all these off so we're not affecting them. So yeah, I'm just kind of manually doing this with my move brush. I'm trying to keep this as clean as possible since we're looking at the low poly stuff here. And that's kind of what you want to do when you're obviously working on something that's lower res. So that once we do start to add in those subdivs, it'll retain the form that we've started creating here a little bit better. And it's a little bit easier to manipulate on the lower res here, just in general. I'm getting there. I think that's a lot better. I might try to just grow that up, something like that. It's not looking bad. Something like this. Another use for that move with your transpose, you can actually use this end circle to skew your shape, which is what I just did there. And it worked pretty well. We're getting a nice kind of overlap there in the geometry. Looking pretty cool. Might be a little bit too tight, but I would probably smooth that out on the higher res just to make sure that I'm not destroying that form completely that we just built up. So let's add in a few subdivs and then go from there. I have a couple partially completed models. I think my biggest challenge is actually finishing the models. Yeah, that's it's an important one, right? And thank you, I'll check it out. Awesome, cool. What would you recommend to do when you have multiple subtools that are close to each other and you need to Dynamesh everything? Example, Dynamesh feet with legs. What would I recommend? It's hard to know exactly what your issue is without seeing your mesh. If you wanted to dynamesh your feet to your legs, I would just delete, go to my highest subdiv, delete lower subdivision levels like that, right there. And then just merge them together, go to merge down. And then once they're merged, I would dynamesh them from there. And then maybe create some poly loops like I did here with the pants. We can look at those again. And then ZRemesh with keep groups on, and maybe project your details if you have a lot of high-res details already from your sculpture work. And that should give you some nice edge flow through there, or at least some decent edge flow automatically. And then just kind of continue to tweak them. I don't know. Maybe if I had some images of your sculpt, I'd be able to give a little bit better feedback, but that would be my initial kind of strategy there. I don't think I have anything here in particular that I would do. So let's duplicate our pants, and let's duplicate the bottom of our shoe. So something like this. These aren't connected or anything very well, so maybe you have your leg going into your ankle, right? And this is not the best example, right? But then from there, I would just delete my subdivs, merge these together, and then that's low res, that's my fault. We'll just dynamesh them. And you have them dynamesh together. Yay. But because poly paint's on, you don't have poly groups. So before you dynamesh, what you want to do is turn off your poly paint data and then dynamesh. Whoops, we'll do lower. And that will retain all of your poly groups, which is very nice. You want to do that for sure. And then just work it up from there. Alright, how's that pant leg looking? There's some tight creases going on in the front that I will definitely want to remove, but that's looking much better. Can soften some of this sharpness out. And I'm going to attempt to just smooth this surface ever so slightly here where this fold is. It's just looking really pillowy, somewhat unnatural. If I backface mask and pull this in, maybe we can make that look a little bit better. I think it's maybe right here. It's kind of just pulling too much visual interest. So I'm going to try to actually smooth that out even more so. Over here, so it's starting to soften a lot more, and then it's just maybe a little bit more tight up here. Yes, this is Pop Sky. Pop Sky has some really cool music. If you guys have ever heard his music, it's awesome. He's like not super well known, but he's got just some really cool kind of chiptune music. I don't really listen to chiptune music very often, but if I listen to anything like that, it's gonna be good old Pop Sky. He doesn't really make too much stuff anymore though. I think he was more of a hobbyist. Still getting a really sharp crease here, so I want to really try to smooth that out. All right, so we'll continue to work on that and work on that pant leg. Work on both of these pant legs, actually. Getting a little bit of a strangeness in the curve here that I'm not liking. It's not quite as uniform as what I want. Make sure that's just reading from all angles here. Cool. Okay, let's take a look here at what else we can work on. That will definitely help. Awesome. We're missing some subdivs in our little shirt separation here. Not really sure what this is called. I'm just adding some asymmetry to make this fit a little bit with the folds that we sculpted. I'll probably add some more asymmetry to that in transpose. Got a little bit of a mess going on here. That's okay though. We're going to Dynamesh this together probably. Let's Dynamesh really quick. I want to see how bad this crease gets. It's actually not that bad. Not as bad as I thought it would be. So let's take the time to merge a couple things here. Let's merge our collar to this guy up here. We'll merge that down with the shirt. Before we merge that, I'm just gonna delete the subdivs. Not want it to calculate any of that junk. And then just a quick Dynamesh. I'll try 128. Probably high enough res. Let's get a little bit more res. Just so this is a little bit more defined in here. And I'll get rid of that funky collection of vertices that we had going on there that wasn't looking super appealing. Another thing you want to focus on when working with folds or anything similar to this is your edges. So as the edge kind of flows out here, you can see that I'm softening it and transitioning it back into the shirt. So we got this nice kind of pillowy effect here. And then as that kind of flows out, it starts to flatten back into the shirt a little bit better. And back here, I'm trying to do the same thing. We'll see. Probably separate this and work with that a little bit more. Up here, I'm just gonna soften this transition. I don't want that to be super tight between these two areas. All right, we'll leave that. And then I want this. I'm gonna create a new edge loop in my form. And this time I'm going to wrap it around the entire shirt. We're gonna get a nice clean edge loop through here. So I'm just using my select lasso brush to essentially start creating that edge loop as I hide that. And then I'm going to mask that. We'll mask it off and switch to our mask pen. And then I can just clean up this edge. Ooh, that's fun. We'll get rid of that. And this doesn't need to be extremely clean. I just want it to be close. Cool. And this will never be seen, but I still would like to push that in. So. And I just did that very quickly with my trim dynamic brush. I'll do the same thing up here. Are you considering sculpting Bowsette in the future? Absolutely not. No. By the time I would get done doing that, the meme would be gone. It's very rare that we get an art meme, though. I'm not a huge fan of being to an extent, being a bandwagoner. Okay, let's see. Maybe just a slight bit of cleanup there. And then Control W will polygroup that. Create a separation there. And up there, do we want to? Yeah, we might as well, right? We're here. We might as well separate that too. We'll take 2 seconds to clean that. Add our mask, and then same as the bottom, just paint it. Just using the mask pen, pretty simple. Doesn't need to be super clean either. And I'll just polygroup that. So we got 3 polygroups here. And the main reason I'm adding these polygroups is for this area so that I can get a clean edge loop through here. We'll see how well it turns out. I'm not sure yet. I might have to project some forms here because we'll probably lose a lot on this remesh because there's a lot kind of happening around here. We'll see. We'll see what it does. Someone's sculpting Bowsette and Nanojin. The face is killing me. Face and hair are 2 things I've always struggled with. Yeah, definitely not easy. Ooh. So we got some crazy stuff going on, but I'm digging that it got most of this in there for me. So I'm pretty happy with that. That's actually retaining that form a lot better than I thought it would. We might, let's project like once and see what happens. How much form change? Okay, so we're just losing some volume, so I will be projecting. Whenever you subdivide from a really low poly mesh, you will be losing the volume, pretty much no matter what. Now this is low poly, we got some clean edge loops, easier to manipulate. All this stuff is combined now for the shirt. Later on, I'll probably merge in the sleeves after I do some more work on those, but we're just gonna continue to focus on the shirt here very briefly. We also got rid of that really weird vert mix-up that we had here. It was like super stretched. That was a problem that probably occurred from dynameshing with polygroups and kind of keeping that all on and then remeshing and jumping back and forth there. If you have even one poly that's kind of a little bit out of whack, or one vert that's pulled pretty far, you can get some pretty strange errors in your surface. And we have alleviated pretty much all that now, so much better. Much cleaner and a lot easier to work with. Let's see. I don't really want to do the other shoe right this second. For this shoe down here, I just moved this really quick, duplicated, moved this as a proxy. One thing I would like to do is get these pant legs. I think the read that I'm getting on this is kind of like it's a rolled up pant leg. It's the only thing that makes sense in my head. And then maybe do the same thing for the sleeves. So let's do the pants first, since we've already looked at those a little bit during the stream. And I'll show you guys how I would do this. So I'm just gonna, yeah, we can go ahead and do this now, it'll be fine. Duplicate the pants, delete my subdivs, and grab my slice curve brush. Normally I would polygroup visible, but I'll wait. And I will slice off a portion of these pants. Just looking at distance right now. I can change that later, so I'm not too worried about it. And I'll do the same thing back here. I'm just doing a straight cut, but you can use the Alt key to add points in your curve, or double tap Alt and you get a sharp line. So whatever you want to do, whatever works best. Straight line is just totally fine for this though. And then from there, we will grab those poly loops, or poly groups, sorry. Delete hidden. And then we can use these as our rolled up pant legs, which will be very nice and easy. Even sample this color. Is that the same? It is. And then from there, I will probably inflate them slightly just so that it has that effect. I don't want it to affect the silhouette too much, but I want it to look like pant legs that are kind of rolled up. The mesh is really organized, gotta respect the technique. Yeah, thank you. In terms of like subtool organization now, you can see that all of these are just PM3D spheres. It's because I make everything from spheres and then just duplicate and reuse meshes. So I don't care about naming stuff until the very end of the process. Pretty much the way I organize my subtools though. I keep everything really clean obviously, but the way I organize is just top to bottom. So if I like go through my subtools here, I'll turn off live boolean so that you can see exactly. Will that work? No, it's gonna freak out. So just scrolling from top to bottom, it just goes down in a logical manner, kind of hitting all the subtools. So it'll start with everything in the head, and then I'll even create start and end groups. And with start and end groups, you can essentially hide everything in one area. So I can hide the head all at once and just kind of roll through all those just in a logical manner. So if you want to increase the size of these to get them showing through the mesh a little bit here, so we're going for the look of a rolled up pant leg, I'm eventually going to close holes on these. But first, before you do that, you want to inflate them. You always inflate before you close holes, because you will get some pretty crappy artifacts in that area if you do it first, or if you close holes first. I'm just inflating that gradually. Let's go for, ooh, I have a quick save. Let's go for 25 How far is that off the surface? We'll do something like that. I don't want it to affect the silhouette too much is my issue here. But for this edge here, this different colored edge, we could maybe color in this surface if we wanted to do it that way, or we could add in some kind of seam on top there. Something to get that to change a little bit. I also want to flatten the bottom of these pant legs. So I'm starting to get this roundness here, so we're going flat, 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 and then we have that really strong curve there. We don't want that. We want it to essentially just end on a flat, much like what we have here. It's very graphic. That's kind of the look we're going for though. Let's try to get that. Can you suggest some drawing tablets at a cheap price for beginners other than Wacom? No, I can't. What I recommend doing is getting one of these though. They're the cheapest tablets that you can get that are really good. That's actually not bad. Wacom bamboo tablets. I don't know why people don't know these exist, but they used to be like 50 or 60 bucks, but you can get a really nice one. Actually, I'll try to find the one that I used to have on Amazon, and it's still a really good tablet. I can share it maybe on my Twitter account or something later. I don't want to spend the time searching for it right now, but just go on Amazon or just look up some Wacom bamboo tablets, and you can probably, through your own research, probably find something pretty good. It'll definitely be under $100. When I got mine, I think it was maybe around 70 or so, but that's what I got my start on. It's a really good tablet. You're not going to find anything better than that at that price value. So I want to get rid of this roundness, and probably the best way to do that is to just slice it off around here. What I'm actually going to do, I'm going to use this as a size reference. So duplicate. I'll even turn on transparent to make this even easier on myself. Slice that. Delete hidden, close holes. And then I have a little bit of a reference here that I can grow that out to. Scale up. And then line up my edges to make sure that that is reading straight. And it's kind of coming out a little bit on the edge there. So maybe push that in a little bit, but that looks pretty good. We're getting the correct read. Now we're no longer getting that. It's much closer. We're no longer having that roundness that we originally had. So let's do the same thing down here. And just slice it off and modify the shape. Pull it out. Exactly the same. Got a couple polygroups down here we need to delete. Make sure that that's all good up there. And this is going to be perfect because when we remesh these polygroups are going to help inform the edge flow of this really nicely. The stretching here we'll get rid of because it will cause some issues, but I'll show you guys how we can do that. Thanks. Yeah, absolutely. And this doesn't need to be perfect. I'm mainly concerned with this angle here not lining up. But that will be good enough for what we need. So remember, you have to turn off poly paint if you want to dynamesh and retain your poly groups. It's very, very important. Now I'm going to ZBrush these using our good old keep groups trick. But because the dynamesh here, if you look at this edge, it's a little dirty. ZBrush struggles with these areas, especially on hard surface turns. So I will ZBrush really quick and see how well that does, but I have a feeling we'll get some problem areas. So it's best to just smooth these out a little bit, and that tends to help ZBrush kind of understand that surface a little bit better. And it looks like it did pretty decent there, pretty good up top. Up here you can see where it's freaked out a little bit, didn't even put a poly there, put an extra poly group, and we don't even want that. I don't even know what that junk is. So I'm just going to grab a really big smooth brush, smooth out that surface just very slightly. There's actually some holes in the mesh up here, so I will fix that as well. Just really, really quick cleanup that doesn't really matter too much. So close holes. When I close holes, it will make those 2 new poly groups, so I want to fix that. Make those the same. Now when we ZBrush, this should be just fine. I'll even drop our poly count pretty low, and that should be perfect. Awesome. So yeah, I recommend just doing that kind of cleanup before you even try, just to make sure it's going to turn out okay. It's typically going to have a couple issues in there. It's best to just get rid of them as quick as you can. I'm just deleting a few edge loops, just too many in here. No reason to have this much info going on in there. And now we can look at the difference between our 2 pieces of geometry that we've created. We can crease these first, or better yet, let's just bevel some edges. I don't want to have really sharp edges in this character anywhere. He's pretty smooth all around, so I want to retain that even on my edges. So I'll just bevel, edge loop complete, and probably do something really tight so it still retains that edge, but it has a little bit of softness as that subdivides up. Cool, so now let's just jump back and forth between these, and you can see the difference in the shapes that we have now created. So this is the new one, and that's the old one. We've gotten rid of that roundness that we had in the back that we didn't want, and we've cleaned up the shape considerably. So let's delete the old one, show everything, and now we'll have to adjust this just to make sure that it's popping out on the outside of the pants here. So I'm just gonna probably scale these up one at a time. Probably. Another thing that's great about adding poly paint and all these changes is that it becomes a lot easier to reference these against your 2D concept. So color data always helps in that. I think these need to be, this top edge needs to come down a little bit more, and this one needs to go up a little bit more, specifically on the top edge, and maybe also just be a little bit thicker at the bottom in general. It starts to get a little bit more narrow than what I'm seeing here. And that might just be a perspective problem, but I think we can do it anyway. Hello, hello new people coming in and hanging out. Welcome to the stream. Working on good old Gooby here. We'll just do a quick save real fast. We're looking at Goobert's pants. It's a good time. Lots of fun. Can't think of anything I would rather be doing than sculpting Goofy's pants right now. Not a thing. So the way I'm gonna move this top edge down is using my transpose line and then just, let's hide this edge too. Let's try that. Just slide this down a little bit, grow that out, and then maybe shrink it in. Making sure that we're not getting too much of a hit there. That worked pretty well. We're starting to get a little bit too much roundness on there. I want that to be pretty straight. If anything has like a slight concavity to it, we're getting a little bit of a convexity there, specifically up top here. So we want to fix that. These little things in the silhouette tend to add up really, really fast. So you want to nip them in the bud as quick as you can. And then of course we want to rotate around in 3D space, making sure that we're getting the same read all the way around, not just from one angle. If we wanted that, we'd be 2D artists, not 3D. Cool. Just a little tap with my smooth brush to push that in. And that one is now much closer to what I'm seeing in the concept. Up here on this guy, let's do the same thing. Let's actually delete this edge loop, I think. It'll be easier to make this change. You could always be listening to Donald Duck singing Simple and Clean from Kingdom Hearts. I didn't know that was a thing. I have not really played any of the Kingdom Hearts games. They're pretty convoluted and crazy. I'm not a huge fan of RPGs. The type of games that I like aren't... I like some story-driven games, but for the most part, I'm a pretty competitive gamer. I like mechanical games, stuff like, not fighting games really, but I do like Smash Bros a lot. I really like Rocket League, but I don't play it anymore, so mechanical type games. For the most part, I just don't have the time to put in, 100+ hours into a story-based game. I say that, but then I have like a crap ton of hours in Rocket League, like over 500. But I know there's some players out there with over 1,000 or thousands of hours. I just don't play anymore though. I know that there is one Kingdom Hearts game where, I think it's on the Nintendo DS, where you play the whole game and then at the very end of it they're like, by the way, it was all just a dream, so isn't that fun? Wasn't that a good use of your time and money? So that's nice. That sounds like a good time. I think I'll pass. I need to scale up the pants at the bottom, but because they're two separate subtools, I can't do it here, I'll have to, whoops, that's the wrong material. Fix that really fast. I need to go into Transpose Master to do this. So we'll do that really fast. I'll also keep everything, all my subtools turned on. Normally I wouldn't do this, but I need to reference the entire character against the changes that I'm gonna make in the pants. It's gonna be a lot easier. So let's look at this from our hero angle. Sometimes I like to turn on polyframe. Can help me see a little bit better. I might make that leg a little bit longer as well. Let's try it. Having some trouble selecting some stuff here. Speaking of Kingdom Hearts, I don't know if you guys have seen the new trailer for the new Kingdom Hearts game, but I don't know if there's an English translation yet, but the one I watched was in Japanese, and listening to Goofy speak in Japanese was maybe the best, best like 2 seconds of my life. It was the Goofy voice, but it just, I can't even explain it. You guys should definitely go watch it if you haven't. It's, I don't know how to explain. It's goofy. It's goofy. It's funny. I was not expecting it at all. Nihongo o hanasumasu. We're getting there. I haven't even done the scale up yet. I'm just trying to fix the pant leg in general. I'm just getting a little bit too complex in the shape. Let's try it. Let's try growing this. Just using the scale. Now, unfortunately, none of my creasing or subdivs come over, so I don't get to see all my accurate creases and shapes here, but I'm mainly just looking right here. I think I might be able to do this a little bit more manually with move back face masking. Let's turn this off so I don't adjust it on accident. Just hide it. Yes, it was very funny. I was dying. And nobody was mentioning it. Oh, it's so good. Nihongo no Goofy. I think that's... I'm getting like this weird hit here. I really need this to be super smooth. It's not quite there. Another one of those silhouette things where it just needs to be super clean. That was weird. And it might seem like I'm being super nitpicky about this stuff, but you'd be surprised. This is the stuff that matters when you're trying to get that 2D appeal into 3D. But it's not just about one angle, of course. I'm rotating around and looking at this in as many ways as I can. I think the main thing that's now needing to be changed is that it needs to taper, get a little bit more thin in both of these legs as it kind of comes up. Just a little bit too symmetrical. So let's go back to our subtools and then we can look at that. I would watch the Kingdom Hearts trailer on here on stream, but I'll get copyright struck almost immediately, so I'd rather not have that happen. It's like Disney, anything Disney or Nintendo, you will get hit so fast, it's not even funny. Alright, so I'm trying to now get this to be more thin up towards the pant legs. So there's a few ways that we can do that. I'm gonna try, I don't know, I'm gonna try maybe pinching in around here and seeing if I can start to pull in around this area. And then from there smooth out that transition. It might work, but it might cause some additional errors. We'll see how it goes. It's not like we can't undo. It's kind of working. Also, just your smooth brush in general will start to shrink in a mesh if you use it strong enough. Just gotta be careful because you will destroy everything that you've built very quickly. That's why I tend to use it as I step up and down through my subdivs. You'll get better control of it as you use it more though. Ooh, there we go, that's starting to read. I need to make some changes to the shirt and how that's interacting with these pants around this area, but we'll get there all in good time. That worked better than I thought it would. We can do the other one here in a moment. Making sure that we're not getting any weird hits in the surface like that. It's definitely the kind of stuff we want to avoid. And you have to rotate around so much to look for this stuff. If you want that to be really clean. I was definitely looking for that taper that we're getting there. It's a lot better now. Much better. Cool. Alright, let's try to do the same thing to the other leg and not completely screw it up. This is just my MAH cut brush. You can get this on Pixelogic's website for free. It's essentially a damn standard and a pinch brush combined. I'm using it to force my surface to pinch in and then smooth out. So it pinches in really tight, and then as I smooth that out, it'll start to stretch out that surface and taper it in towards that pinch. It will also help in getting the roundness, this kind of 1-2 hit that we have going on here. So it's not quite as strong in our concept, but I think with a little bit more pinching in, it will be close enough. 1, 2, there we go. We're starting to get it. Keep messing with it. Back leg, I want that to be more straight. So I got a curve in the front and a straight in the back. Or, I'm sorry, yes, a curve in the front and a straight in the back, yes. Sometimes my my brain's on autopilot. I don't even listen to what I say. Okay, I think we're getting a little too awkward here, so if I can thin this out more so, I think that would be good. And I want these to be roughly the same diameter. They're in different poses, so they might be acting a little bit differently, but still. Oops. Let's see how that's looking. Clean up this curve a little bit. I think that'll help. It's tucked up under the shirt. I'm gonna have to, like I said, mess with this interaction some more, which is fine. That's the stuff. As you start to mess with one thing, you're gonna notice where other areas are off. Looking at Goofy's taint, no problem. Just making sure that that's a nice, clean edge all the way through. Nice clean surface. No extra concave or convex surfaces that we don't need. Let's grab our material here and reapply that just to make sure we're not getting anything weird going on there. And I can start to add some more asim to this shirt now. So we look at this, so let's try that. Looking at the silhouette, if we look at this leg, the way this flows up into the shirt and then the chest, we get this nice S-curve flow through that silhouette of the body, and that's really nice. It's really cool. I would like to try to get that through part of this. It will be a little tough to try to figure out how that's going to work in 3D. So we'll probably have to do some finagling, which is fine. We'll figure it out. Let's start by just hiding the arms. And we will go into T-pose to adjust all of that together. So arms hidden, we can probably hide Probably hide the feet as well. And we don't need the head either. So let's just focus on this area here and making this flow a little bit better. And this is one of the big areas that's been bugging me for a while. I just haven't been focusing on it too much. Really big move brush as I pull in here and there. We're working asymmetrically now, so it's fine to just go crazy in these different areas. I'm trying to push it for this one particular view, of course, but I do have to make sure that things are still reading from other angles. You can start to get really wonky if I'm looking at this angle and I just start to push that in so that S curve is reading really well. As I turn this around, it might not. It starts to look like Goofy's body is kind of twisting at the hips a little bit, so kind of want to avoid that. Just maybe make this a little bit more flush. In the back, kind of hard to get a read on because we can't see it, but I can see where the pant leg is going, and I can see kind of this line here. So I can inform some of my decisions around that. It's a matter of trying this out and seeing how it looks. Starting to get that to read a little bit better. I also thought we were getting a little bit wide maybe in the hips. This kind of flares out a little bit here. So maybe we can, let's try this. Just masking off that bottom edge. Oops. And maybe something like that. Flare that out that way. I want something for the hands to tuck up into. I'm not going to sculpt any hands. It's just going to be the sleeves going into his pockets. You can't see his hands, so they shall be invisible. Not invisible, but not seen. It also starts to get really thin in this area. Maybe we can get some of that too. Ooh. Trying to make it a little bit higher on this one side. It seems to just be a little bit higher on his right than his left. Not too much. Tweak that a little bit. All right, let's go back to sub-tools, and see how big of a change that's making. We pushed that in pretty far. Let's see how that's reading overall. I think this angle's reading better. Might want to move this leg forward, puff the chest out more. Let's turn here a little bit more. Let's go back to sub-T or T-pose. Let's just mess with this area overall. There's a lot of things that I think we need to tweak here. Pulling this down, puffing out the chest. I'm looking at stuff like this, so like this line here in relation to his face. We're looking at this where, you know, this could be a proportion issue. It could be that his head and body isn't leaning back far enough. which is maybe something that we can look at as well. This angle, I think, could go back a little bit further if we're looking at that. So maybe just a few more degrees, maybe 5 at the most. Push that back, and I think we'll be able to start getting that to read a little bit more accurately. He's leaning back really far. I mean, we're trying to get that to look as close as we possibly can. All right, let's see. Whew. So, how do we want to do this? Proportionally, I think the head is okay. Come on. So I don't want to necessarily change that. I'm just going to polygroup the head all together. One polygroup. Polygroups don't matter in Transpose Master. They don't carry back over, so you can use them to your advantage. But pushing that back even further. The neck feels longer to me. And I think once I grow that neck out and push that chest up more, I think that will read quite a bit better. So let's just move that neck a little bit. And then I'm gonna turn symmetry on, even though this isn't symmetrical, just so I can grab both sides of this a little bit easier and really try to push it forward. Forward and up. How are we looking at scale-wise for that shirt? I think we could maybe make that a little bit larger. Kind of the feel that I'm getting, at least. So even while you're in this stage, you know, there's still a lot of proportional changes you're gonna make, I think. It's good to have these lower subdivs to be able to go back and look at those. Even more. Let's go crazy here. I've just grown that quite a bit. Definitely some other stuff we're gonna have to change to make that fit, though. But we are getting closer to what we're looking for here in the chest. A little bit of a balancing act. A lot of bit of a balancing act, actually. Making these big changes can just start to get a little overwhelming. Things get a little hectic. Need to polygroup these, I think, make that a little bit easier to select. Let's see. How we feeling? I'm feeling better about it, but still even larger. I don't know. Let's try this out. looking at stuff like this gap between the tooth and the collar there. How long that neck is feeling. This this jacket, I'm looking at this gap here. So this is one of the kind of tougher areas that I was looking at before, but if we look at the inner body here, trying to get this curve, I think we're pretty close there actually, but I think this needs to flare out a little bit more on the backside there. Back here. Try to get that angle. And also get this curve of the back side of our vest. How are we looking? You can also apply poly paint in here and it won't matter, so if you don't want to leave Transpose Master. What is great about Transpose Master, or another thing that's great about Transpose Master, is when you do cascade back to your subtools, with just a few undos you can go back to where you were on individual subtools or on everything at once. It's really up to you. I think maybe I could push the tilt of his head a little bit further. The legs are looking much better. We're getting close to the correct angle here on the chest. Here we go. It's reading at least a lot better from this angle. It's not all about one angle though, right? Man, 3D, why are you so hard? How's that feeling? Feels pretty good. There's a lot of little things that I'm starting to pick up a little bit more on. I feel like the hat is a little bit larger. Once we go back, I want to tweak the hat in general. There's a few, or there's one main area that I want to tweak with the connection point with the hat. I feel like it could maybe be a little bit larger. I scaled this up quite a bit. Maybe it's just that top portion of the hat. Or actually, I think, maybe it's this area, this portion of the hat. let's just stick with that, even if it is a little bit too large. I'd rather it be larger than what I need than smaller. I'm going to try to tilt the head even more and try not to completely break this pose in 3D. We'll see how that goes. Jumping all around there. Jeez. A lot of little things. Remember, our creases and subdivs aren't coming through, so some of the forms aren't exactly the same as they will be once we go back to our subtools. I think... Come on. Select the stupid shirt. See if this helps. Trying to push that even further, maybe. Let's head back to our subtools and see how everything's kind of flushing out here together. I'll do a quick save just so we don't lose anything as well. Turn off solo so we can see this happen. Lots of changes. Ugh. Goofy looking closer. Did I not move those arms? Huh. I guess let's fix those. I'm just kind of comparing a lot of stuff right now, so kind of zoned out there for a second looking at this. Let's go back to T-pose. push that back even further all together. See what we can do about this. Just a lot of stuff that's not going to work here in 3D, but I can try. I can try to make it read at least the same. Just proportionally, some of this stuff I need to change quite a bit, but let's do one thing at a time. Really pushing back here. He was kind of feeling a little bit off balance. I mean, obviously he's like crazy off balance, but we can try to make that feel a little bit better in 3D. It's getting there. It's gonna be a lot of back and forth here. Like I said, it's quite a balancing act, and that is the stage of the process that we are in right now, balancing. Some of this silhouette is starting to read a little bit better, coming up through the leg. That was the first thing that we were kind of focusing on when we got in here. Now I'm just looking at everything working together and just trying to jump around as much as I can, jump back and forth between different aspects of this. Mainly jumping back and forth between the shirt, this chest area here, and the head. Really trying to get this curve and those proportions to line up. And his schnoz might be a little bit too long. So I've shortened this a little bit already, but I think a little bit more won't hurt. Guess we'll see. I'm using a really soft mask there. Pulling that in closer, maybe even more. Looking a little long in the tooth region. That's also helping with the read in this area a little bit more. Oh. All right, I think that's definitely helping a lot. Just doing some minor tweaks to the mouth here. as I figure out this angle. It's looking like it could just come out a little bit further up top here, round out a little bit more maybe. This is the hit I'm looking at. It's just not, it's not super possible in 3D. I mean, I can push it, but it's just gonna break this in other angles. So if I really push this and come out here, I think it's gonna start to, I'm just trying to nudge it little by little. The more I do that, the worse it's not a fan right now. The worse it's just gonna start to look from other angles. You gotta kind of determine how much you can sacrifice for that pose. The silhouette isn't always possible in something like this, but I'm just trying to at least get some kind of hit there. And then starts to subduct a little faster as it goes back. Curls back from the teeth. Goofers, teefers. Maybe pull up some more. Still trying to keep that silhouette clean. We're starting to get a little dirty here. Whoops. Keep that nice and clean. Just want that to read the same as it is in the illustration, which is tough. All right, I say we go back to our subdivs so that I can work on that mouth a little bit more. Definitely help out. So we've pushed this angle even more so. It might be a little too much back, but I think we'll be able to work with what we have. Getting some marble here, clean that up. Same thing back here on the other side. And then that's starting to show through, so I'll just take a big move brush, start to adjust some of that, push it back in. And it's starting to get a little uneven up here. Getting an extra concave surface there that we don't want. It's complicating the form. So I'll try to move that back out. Not too hard, but I just need to rotate around so that that is looking good from all angles. And we might need to move some of this back here a little bit lower to help facilitate that change. And maybe scoot the nose up some more. think the nose could be squashed some as well. Still getting a little bit of that concavity there in the surface. I want that to keep that, retain this silhouette here all the way through, which it is from this angle, but as we start to rotate around, we can start to lose that in some of these areas here. So just making sure that that feels like the same shape, or that it looks like the same shape from all these different angles. Very important. Saw a weird shadow that we're getting in here. Might be able to clean that up. I think when I squashed in the nose, it ended up kind of creating a little bit of a pinch back in here. Plus that star is not doing us any favors in the geometry. Let's see how that looks. Starting to lose that roundness down here some. I'm getting some extra form that's just not in the concept here that I'm going to try to remove. It's creating more shadows than what we need here, so I'm going to use my trim brush and flatten it on this surface and then try to add a little extra form up top and try to get this crease to end a little bit earlier by doing this. And I'll also have to do this to the other side because we're no longer symmetrical. That shouldn't be too much of a problem. And I'll just come through, make sure that that crease is reading fairly well, and then soften it up some. All right. Try to get here, fix that edge, round that out, and let's go look at the other side. Trim brush, push this down, bring out the surface a little more out through here. Start to fix some of that again. This is one of those areas that I was kind of talking about earlier where your form starts to get a little bit more complex than what you're seeing in the concept. I can paint outlines to an extent, but I have to try to interpret this shape that's happening here into 3D. So with that, I've wrapped around this surface, and by doing that, it started to pull this crease all the way through here. And that's just another one of those areas of edge quality that we want to slowly taper out. Kind of like the folds that we were looking at earlier. Pretty much the same technique and strategy for tackling that and going back through and softening up those areas, but just a little bit of a different read than what we would have here on a fold. And it's not clothing, so I wouldn't sculpt it exactly the same. Softening that out. And just trying to make sure that that crease isn't super tight in there. Let's see how that is looking for both of those. I'm getting a little bit of an awkward surface turn here. It's just pushed out too far. I'm gonna trim this back. It's a little hard to see with this material. So let's switch to our sculpting material. My clay materials that I made oh so many years ago. I made these maybe 2 or 3 years ago. That's not very many. Definitely a lot easier to see what's happening in my surface with this. Starting to get a little dirty through here, so let's just smooth it out, and I think that will be good. We'll get one more read here, and maybe make a couple more tweaks. Let's see. It's reading better, but that curve here is pointing this way, flowing up and out, where I kind of want that to come back around like we have here. So I might be able to do that easily with my move brush. I might just leave it because it's kind of a small thing. I don't know. I'll probably leave it for now and return to it later and see what kind of changes I can make to it. But I think that'll be a good place for us to stop for right now. I am gonna go grab some lunch because it's getting pretty late and I haven't eaten anything. So, let's see here. Looking good. I might be able to do some more quick changes with some rotations to the head, but I think we'll do that in our next stream. I might be jumping on a little bit later today. I will let you guys know, but follow me on Twitter or Instagram so you guys can be made aware of when I will be streaming. It'll be at least a couple hours if I hop back on. But yeah, cool guys. Well, thanks for coming and hanging out. Again, this is a concept by @VerticalDraws on Twitter. And if you enjoyed this stream and like my free content that I make on my YouTube channel, check out my Gumroad, where I have some higher quality paid content that I put a lot more work into. Stuff like my tutorials and courses, and then some other people were asking in the stream earlier about some one-on-one mentorship, which I offer as well. So go check that stuff out if that sounds like something that interests you. And with all that, I will see you guys in the next stream. Have a great rest of your day. See you guys.